Hello, if you're one of my friends, you know that earlier this year I purchased a couple of beehives, minus the bees, but today is April 28th, 2015, and the bees are here, and I'm going to show you how to install them in the hive. But before I do so, I want to give everybody a view of what the hives actually consist of. I see an extreme amount of interest in this topic. A lot of people are interested in bees, but they're afraid of bees, and they've never really been up close to a beehive. So I'm going to show you first, before we get into the bees, I'm going to show you what the hive actually consists of, part by part, and hopefully explain how it works so you have a better understanding of this. Okay, on any beehive, you have what you call the bottom board. In this case, this is a screened bottom board. You can see there's a piece of screen at the bottom of this that allows for ventilation. Portion here that as the weather warms up, this can be removed to allow even better ventilation. But this sits on the bottom, thus the reason it's called the bottom board. The next thing we have is what's called the brood chamber, and you can see this is really just a wooden box. Obviously no bottom in it or anything like that, but this is the main area where the bees are going to live. But in doing so, we have what we call foundation, and there will be 10 frames of this foundation. This is nothing more than a piece of plastic. You can see it has somewhat of a honeycomb design to it, but just plastic. This is not beeswax, although beeswax is oftentimes used for this. But these frames simply fit into the brood chamber as such. And when we're all done, there will be 10 of these across. There are hives that contain 8 frames, but this particular one is a 10-frame hive. So as you can see, we have 10 frames across. That's where the bees are going to live. Now, once they fill up about 80% of this, 7 or 8 of these frames, we'll add a second box to the top, like so, and put 10 more frames across. That will be the main breeding area for our bees. After that, after the second brood chamber is filled, we'll add what's called a honey super. It's a smaller box, similar in design. It will also have 10 frames in it. This will be the area where the bees will store their honey. As that box fills up, there'll be an additional box put on top of that containing more honey. That's where the bees are storing their honey for their own food supply. We have to make sure that there's enough honey left for the bees to last them through the winter. Any surplus, when it comes into the fall, will determine whether there's enough honey here to harvest for human consumption. But first and foremost, we have to make sure that the bees stay healthy. Okay, we are here with the bees. As you can see, this is a 3-pound package of bees. This is probably the most common way that a new beekeeper such as myself would acquire bees. Again, I get these bees from Queen Wright Colonies in Spencer, Ohio. Great people. If you're in the northern Ohio area, or anywhere else for that matter, reach out to them for really any of your beekeeping needs. Now, like I said, it's a 3-pound package. It's roughly 10,000 bees. I didn't count them. I'm going to take their word for it. But they're in there right now. They are all clustered around the queen. She's in a small box. I'm going to remove this can that's on the top of this box here, which is filled with sugar water. But before I do that, I'm going to spray the bees down with my own solution of sugar water just to calm them down. So I'll give them a few squirts. Again, my goal is not to saturate them, just to get them calmed down a little bit and take their mind off of what is about to happen. Because what is about to happen is I am about to remove this can from the top of the cage, and then I will be removing the queen. So that's what we're going to do. I I need to shake the bees down to the bottom because I want to remove the queen cage. So I'm just going to give them a bump here. And now I will remove the can. I use my pliers for that. And as I do that, I will take hold of the queen cage, which is going to slide right out of here. And the queen is inside of this, and she is marked with a blue dot. And you should be able to see that there, I hope so. And you can see the attendant bees there with her. So she's in this cage, and on one end of this cage is a small cork. I am going to remove that cork and fill it with what's called fountain, which is similar to a sugar paste. And of course, what I don't want to do is the queen escape during this process. So she's in there. I'm going to put the fountain in here. Now the purpose of this fountain is to create essentially a time release of the bee, of the queen. She is foreign to this hive, so we have to leave her in for a period of time. We do not want her to escape prematurely. So we use the fountain, and the bees will eat that away, and she'll be released hopefully in about 3 days. The anti side goes up to prohibit any bees from blocking her escape. I'm not just totally happy with how that's setting right there. So I want to turn it just a little bit. Okay, our queen is in the cage. She's alive. The cage is inside. Now comes the interesting part where I'm going to pour the rest of these bees back into the hive. I'm going to give them just one more squirt of the sugar water. I am now going to remove the can once again. I will be setting it aside. And now I'm simply going to dump all these bees into the hive. Now it's impossible to get all of them out, so we'll do the best we can. And those that are not out yet will find their way. Bring this in here. Like so. Okay, Now our next thing is to calmly and slowly insert our frames. And we now have all 10 frames back in the hive. Now the next thing I'm going to do is lay this bag that contains a solution of 1:1 sugar water, and I'm going to poke some small holes in this bag as a way for the bees to feed. Realize that these bees do not have any comb on these frames right now, so it's necessary for it to feed them so they can build their comb, and then the queen will escape from her cage, and in about 21 days she'll start laying her eggs. Now, as a way of protection, I'm going to replace the upper portion of this hive with the shallow honey super, and then cover all of that with the inner cover. And finally, place the telescoping cover over all of that. And with that said, our bee package is installed and we're good to go.